All right, guys, today's guest is Bryce Jones. He is the tech product manager at Pirelli. We're going to talk to him about everything tire, try to get as much information as we can out of him because there's so much cool stuff in tires. OEM's doing some cool stuff. Pirelli's connected with every OEM company that does cool things, and F1, all kinds of good stuff. So, man, let's get into it. Tires. Where do we even begin? So, Formula One obviously is your probably most people know you guys for Formula One, you would say, or is it most like?
I think so. I mean, Formula One has huge awareness, and we, we get a lot of brand awareness from Formula One, and it's become so much more popular here in North America within the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and getting ready for
really
the Vegas event.
Vegas is going to be huge.
That one's a big one. That seems like it's going to be. It seems a little crazy to think, let's race down the Vegas Strip.
I like Vegas. Vegas plus F1, it's going to be pretty out of control. Yeah.
Are you going to be out there for that?
Not at this moment. I'm waiting for my invite, but I don't have there are a lot of people that want to go.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's a pretty big company. 150 years of Pirelli racing and tire building.
Yeah.
So how closely do you work with like the manufacturers when they're coming out with new tires, or your team of guys?
So myself personally, I'm on the replacement side, so I work more with our replacement line customers. So your bigger, larger retailers in the U.S. We have specific teams that work with all the OE manufacturers. So I'm working on that first or second replacement tire after the car. You have maybe 30 to 50,000 miles on the vehicle. You wear out the OE tires, and then what's that next set of tires that you want to put on? That's the tire that I work on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because when we were talking about setting this up, I kept seeing and reading about how connected Pirelli is on the development on a 911, trying to get it going around the track faster. And I started to think, I was like, how much. Everybody always puts emphasis on the car's this much faster than it was last year. How much of that is actually just the tires getting better year over year versus the chassis? Because
ask the tire guys. It's all tire.
Yeah, it's all tire.
Ask the vehicle guys. I'm sure they think it's whatever they did to the vehicle dynamics to improve. But tires have a lot to do with it. You're a racer. You understand. Tires are the only thing that contacts the road. You have to be able to apply the power to get it going, yeah.
Well, because every year it seems like Porsche goes up a little bit in tire size too. I don't know where they can end because it almost seems like the full width of the rear of the car is tires at this point. They're putting 315s on the back of the.
They're getting big, and I can't, like I say, I don't work specifically with any of those OE manufacturers, but some of that tire size has to do with vehicle weight, vehicle proportions. So at least we at Pirelli, we're trying to design a tire specifically for that vehicle. It's bespoke. It matches the performance characteristics of the vehicle. So as they add power, as they add weight, you make the tire just a little bit different to really fit that vehicle. Yeah,
they do kind of keep getting heavier year over year. I love looking at those old pictures of the Porsches where they're like
a 175.
Yeah, they look. Yeah. And it's like, wow, they've gotten so much better over time. It's like, yeah, well, look at the tires. Of course they've gotten better. Look at what they were working with. The rubber was probably dry rotted to start with. They looked like.
Yeah. Actually, some of the old tires are amazingly still in pretty good condition.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it just compound difference and
different compound, different ingredients? That's something that we're working on a lot right now. Is looking for environmentally safe compound ingredients that also preserve that tire.
That's what I was wondering, because a lot of road debris is just tire rubber that comes off. So I'm sure the environmental protection agencies of multiple countries don't enjoy tires that have 100 tread wear that wear out on the street. And
yeah, I really couldn't say.
Yeah.
You might be right, but I can't.
I've been around a lot of burnout cars, and that's
There's a lot of rubber at the end of a drag strip, or at the starting line of a drag strip. Yeah, for sure.
Well, those burnout contests that we do a lot. If you use you have to it's the same thing. You have to think about compound of tire, and if you use something too soft, it'll burn off too quickly because you're trying to pop your tires as quick as possible. Probably very different than anything you've ever thought about, is trying to pop a tire as fast as you can.
Yeah.
So we go up in air pressure as much as possible, as much as the wheel and tire combo will take.
How much do you go? What do you go to?
Whatever the compressor will usually allow.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So you're talking like over 100 pounds?
If you got a compressor that will allow that to where the tire hasn't popped yet,
Yeah.
that's what you're trying for. And it makes a big bang, and
That's a lot of pressure.
it's pretty fun. It's a different world of tires, and even in that, some companies are making specialty burnout tires.
Are you serious?
Some Australian companies are doing it, and then they're doing colored tires
I've
for
heard
that.
about that. Yeah.
And then they want them to like color for a certain amount into the run and then change color.
Really?
It's a weird sport compared to what we're doing out here today. We're at the Motor Enclave watching, participating in a bunch of different Pirelli cars that come OEM with them. The BMW G80 that has it, which is a really awesome car, and I can't imagine, I can't believe how big that M3 is.
Yeah.
Like
it's a big vehicle, yeah.
I thought it was an
M5. The way it handles
M5
around the track is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that car is really good.
Yeah.
And those like a 20-inch wheel on an M3 was just crazy to see.
Yeah.
So Pirelli obviously is doing all kinds of OEM manufacturing. You can see it here behind me. I see it on pretty much Porsche is what I always like to talk about, but the McLarens and stuff like that. What kind of cars, how tough is it to get tires for certain cars?
How tough is it to get tires for certain cars?
Because don't you guys make some really special ones for some special cars where it's like some of those high speed stuff, like top mile an hour runs, like how do you go about that? You know, if I want to go 250 miles an hour, try to break the record, where do we go about that?
Yeah, that's... I mean, if a tire was made for a vehicle, we are, within our manufacturing capacity, we're trying to make those and make sure that they're always available. Mm-hmm. Sometimes on certain vehicles, they may, run short for a period of time, but, if the tire was designed to do that originally, then they should... You can buy them at Tire Rack wherever you would normally buy your tires. Yeah,
I've always thought some of those like specialty ones for like some of these high-end hypercars are like a tough tire to get, and then mounting them is like a specialty process from what I've seen. But
I think what you're talking about is the Bugatti.
The Bugatti definitely does that with their tires, but I thought other car companies had to do it also for their high-speed stuff. But again, this is completely out of my wheelhouse.
I don't think we're dealing anything with that, and we may want to do some research on the backside, because I'm perfectly honest, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So heritage program too? Do you do in that?
The Collezione tires.
Yeah.
So for your vintage Porsche, this and that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those can be difficult to come across, and that's just, they'll make a certain run of them for a time, and it can be difficult to come across those, from what I understand.
And you guys still do produce?
They still produce those, as far as I understand. They're made in Milan, I believe. So yeah.
Huh. That's pretty interesting. So if you have, I guess because the Porsche market is pretty interesting on that, where the old school stuff, you want to keep it super period correct.
And from, if you're showing your vehicle, or like for like the concourse type shows, the tires are supposed to be specific to the vehicle, and so from what I understand, those Collezione tires they'll qualify.
Yeah. So I'm not worried about that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
So if you guys can tell, we are on location here, and it's probably some background noise. You can probably hear some cars ripping. We are in a hall watching.
We're in the middle of a podcast. You're good.
Normal stuff. I leave all that in.
It's cool.
So we're talking about OEM equipment, tires, records. You were just talking about the Cyber tire.
So Cyber's really
cool. Yeah.
So, putting a sensor in a tire, it's not, that specifically is not new. Putting sensors in tires has been around for a little while. The McLaren Artura, this is the first time a production vehicle has come out from the factory with a sensorized tire. Mm-hmm. So that sensor communicates with the vehicle, tells the vehicle what tires on the vehicle. It tells the vehicle temperature, air pressure. It has a lot of capability to like start getting into, when you need to rotate tires, when you need to start thinking about replacing tires. It really is some neat technology.
Yeah.
And as vehicles become more autonomous, more electrified, they're going to need the tire to communicate with the vehicle more and more. So this is really just a first step almost as we become more, integrated with the tire in the vehicle.
My car can sometimes tell me when I'm low on tire pressure. That's about it.
TPMS, yeah.
And it sometimes works.
It sometimes works.
Usually not. Usually the light's just on.
Interesting, TPMS, it tells you probably when it's a little bit too late.
Yeah, and when it's just cold outside.
Or when it's just cold outside. Yeah, exactly.
My standard practice of my wife telling me, hey, it's the light's on again.
Yeah.
Yeah, drop 5 degrees. So it'll tell you heat, it'll tell you wear life, your cyber tires, it'll tell you.
Yeah. It has that capability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what customers are asking for these? Are these like?
Well, McLaren was.
McLaren wants that.
And Pirelli worked together to bring out the cyber tire for the Artura.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know like exactly what kind of situations they're running into where they're like needing so much extra data just from a tire. It's so crazy to like think a street going car needs so much tire data. Like that just seems next level stuff.
Like if you think about some of the electric vehicles today that are on the market, they're capturing a ton of data every second. And I think most vehicles today are communicating something back and forth through the cloud. So you can capture data and understand whether it's for an individual vehicle or if you're trying to understand a fleet.
Yeah.
How's a fleet performing? It's
get a message from Pirelli telling you when your tires are bald.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Hey, it's about time to get a new set.
So this is the cyber tires on the McLaren Artura, and this is very high performance. We're looking at, how can it assist in track performance, this and that. So, but like once it goes mainstream, I see the sensorized tires really being useful on fleets, like taxi type situations. If they're ever fully autonomous taxis, that could be a situation where a sensorized tire really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because you guys have, Lucids out here, and that's probably a very specialty thing to make a tire for that needs to be so high performance, yet so heavy.
Yeah,
even
exactly.
Like the Lamborghini Urus, it's like OEM comes to you and they're like, yes, it's 7,000 pounds, but yes, it also needs to do all this performance stuff. It's like
absolutely.
And off-road.
The Lucid has a huge battery life, but comes with a huge battery.
Yeah.
So it's a heavy vehicle. That vehicle actually uses, I'm not sure if it was the first what we call high load capacity tires. So a tire that actually is the same size but can carry additional load compared to a different tire and a different extra load tire of the same size. So again, as electric vehicle companies start to ask for more and more performance, we're providing tires that can do more and more in kind of the same size package.
Yeah, there's not much way around that. There's only so much tire on the road, and there's so much weight to put on top of them to try to not have them go through them. Because that was an early Tesla issue. People were like, why is the tire so bald so quick? And it's like, well, you got rear-wheel drive and 700 foot-pounds of instant torque. What?
Tons of torque, more weight, and from what I understand, people just like to drive those cars fast.
Yeah.
So much torque that you want to drive it fast. So that right foot gets into it a lot.
And you almost have to re-educate people on performance cars, because if you go back 20 years, a high performance car is now just standard performance. Like it's completely different world.
Yeah, and that's interesting as well. The tire industry is going more and more to, instead of just touring tires, every vehicle your grocery getter comes with some kind of high performance or UHP type tire.
Yeah, well, half the grocery getters now are 700 horsepower SUV. It seems like
exactly. Yeah.
It seems like everybody wants that. And hey, I'm all for it. Make more power, but it's it's a lot of strain to put on somebody like you, but it probably also helps because you probably sell more tires.
Strain, yes, but we love it.
It's a challenge.
We love, we really like the performance SUV category. We've introduced, at least in the last 2 years, we've produced some pretty good SUV, tires that are directed towards the SUV market. Mm-hmm. They give you, pretty good comfort. You're very comfortable, but also, fairly sporty as well. Well, that's what I like about Pirelli is there's always an element of sportiness in almost everything we sell.
Yeah, I get it because all the P0 stuff across the board even seemed like the most tame street one was probably still more grippy and more traction and a soft compound compared to most street tires that I've dealt with. Yeah, which is kind of nice. I mean, even your entry-level street tire is still performance-oriented, right. Because that's the other flip side is you have a performance car, you go through a set of nice P0s, and you're like, oh, man, maybe let me try one of their step down a little bit. I won't go through them as quick. Yeah. But you still get some performance out of it because that's always it's always the balance of performance in the rain. My wife can drive it, but grip on the track when you want to. Yeah,
and that's what we do. We are, I think, probably more known for, like you mentioned at the very beginning, F1, kind of that sports car type element, but we do make a full range for everything. What we call the P7 AS Plus 3, an all-season tire for your sedans and cars, and then the Scorpion line is for more SUV and trucks, but a comfortable but slightly sporty tire as well.
Yeah, and then something off-road like the Urus is doing today. Yeah, where I was just talking to some of the guys that drive racetracks, drive on racetracks all the time. They drive on racetracks all the time, and they were talking about how good it is in dirt, which is funny to hear. Yeah. Did you try it yet? I haven't gone out yet.
I've heard it's pretty cool. I
think to 5
o'clock. From what I understand, you're on at 5? Okay.
Go with some
it's the one thing to try, yeah.
Dirt, Urus. It's a weird concept that works.
Did you drive the Urus yet?
I haven't driven the Urus yet.
Are you signed up to do that? To drive it?
Yeah. Okay. I think they're going to let me drive it. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I'm pretty excited for that one.
Yeah.
That was what my wife said too. She's like, you got to drive the Urus. I'm like, no, I shouldn't drive. I try not to drive some things that make me want them too badly. Yeah. I was looking at those Porsches out there, and I was like, I can't do it. I got to avoid that. It's too good.
Just what do you want to spend all your life's resources on?
Exactly. So I was also wanted to harass you about drag racing tires. We need more in the market. I'd love to see some more sticky compound drag tires so I can do a wheelie with a Pirelli.
I mentioned
do the Italians care about that?
Drag racing isn't really in our DNA. 0 to 60 is in our DNA. We want to know how fast your Lamborghini or your Porsche or whatever can go, 0 to 60. But I don't know that drag racing was ever in Pirelli's wheelhouse.
Yeah, it definitely seems a little foreign to them. But it'd be pretty interesting to see more on the market of drag racing tires. Yeah. It'd be a fun thing to experience because some of those Formula One tires are not far off looking size-wise and everything. Like they have like a big sidewall. Well,
it's interesting because when we moved from the 13-inch to the 18-inch this year or last year, they lost a lot of that. The ability to wrap up and produce lateral acceleration. So they've had to figure out ways to deal with that, having the lower profile tire.
Do they kind of try to manage that with tire pressure too to get a little bit more bite on it? Because that's what we can really only do with our tires is tire pressure, wheel size to not stretch it. Trying to stretch
I know that they've been doing a lot with pressure, and they're trying to go to a more environmentally friendly situation, and so that means using less electricity, less energy, and they're going to take away the heat blankets I think either next year or the year after.
Oh, really?
So that'll be kind of something neat. The compounds will have to be totally redesigned.
Yeah, it adds a curveball, less tire changes. They're probably trying to add all kinds of things like that just to make it a little bit more. It is cool though, because it's not really reasonable to say in Formula One, but making it not as expensive on teams is something NASCAR always tries to do.
There's always an element of trying to put a cap on expenses, yeah, for sure. Otherwise, racing just gets out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, Formula One obviously should be out of control. It's kind of the peak of what can you do type of thing. It's like, how crazy can you get?
Right.
Have you ever paid any attention to Formula Drift? Because it's kind of a funny...
I really don't have a whole lot of... no experience with Formula Drift.
No, because I know they have like 3 tires that are in there. It'd be funny to see.
Yeah.
Italian tire manufacturer.
Yeah, it hasn't.
Try to get into there.
As far as I know, nothing that.
Good deal, man. Well, we're gonna switch over, get you out of here.
Okay, it's good talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. All right, so we got VP of Marketing. I don't want to butcher your name. You say it yourself. I have it written down here, but there's no chance I'm reading this correctly.
You go with me, I'll go with you. Andrea Oosthuizen.
Oosthuizen.
Andrea Oosthuizen, Chief Marketing Officer for Pirelli in North America.
Andrea Oosthuizen. That's a very Pirelli name. I feel like it fits brand recognition pretty well to have a name like that.
When they talk about the perfect fit, something unique, that's a distinct surname which gets most people guessing with a double O, throws them off completely.
It is interesting to have the double O because my first name has 2 O's in it, and I haven't come across many double O names at all. But very cool, man. So you do VP for marketing for Pirelli, North America, Mexico, and
Canada.
And Canada. Okay, so some of the stuff that we were just talking about, I mean, we were looking at that 911 Dakar over there and stuff like that is just probably the coolest thing for a marketing guy to get to market is something along those lines.
Oh, man, if you look at that car in particular, the essence of what it represents, and we're fortunate to represent and work along with some of the most esteemed and highly regarded brands in the world in the automotive market. But beyond that, the era of leading into and post-COVID, where there's been a celebration of luxury, in fact, post-COVID in that online era where everything just went online and people were having to dial in and make things happen, and it just had this euphoric rise of the consumption of luxury goods, and it's skyrocketed, and you can see all the brands that have celebrated in that success. So automotive have been riding the back of that wave, and you've got the regular models, but then these highly esteemed niche models, a certain model that fits a bill for a certain consumer. The fact that it's limited edition or exclusive obviously just makes people go bananas. And I always say it's a term access. If you limit access, limited edition, all of a sudden there's an extra allure or appeal. And you find that people want to get their hands in the sandbox. They want to be partying, they want to play. And based on that, you can command a significant premium. And you've seen many of these cars. If you're lucky enough to get one of your hands on them, some of them immediately sell on the used car market and for 3-4 times what you paid at sticker. So is it a good thing? Probably to be debated. I mean, you want the brand to have the following, but from our point of view, being the technology provider and support partner for that, it's fantastic because we believe we manufacture and produce some of the best products, fitting some of these models and a whole, slew of many other ones. And for us, it's a perfect fit. So glad to be a part of it. That car in particular, 911, going on road, but also off road, the best of both worlds. Not for everybody, but the fact to say that you can do it, it's almost an empowerment in the sense of the word.
Yeah, those safari cars are just so cool in their own way, and they probably, just making that car probably leads to a ton of other people getting just interested in the entire package, and seeing those tires on it that are custom made by you guys for that car, I'd imagine is pretty cool too, where I can imagine Porsche had to call you guys up and be like, hey, we want an off-road tire for our 911. And that's probably a fun conversation to be on the other end of. It's some kind of crazy obscure questions that OEM probably asks to tire manufacturers.
Well, I guess who was on the receiving end of that call or that email, they must probably have said, hello, well, are you serious? You haven't done this for decades? I think it goes back to the original Dakar, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably 1984.
Yeah.
So, again, a celebration of brands, Porsche like Pirelli with a great heritage, and you bring back certain of those iconic milestone and products. There's a following of purists, and it gives them an idea a reason to celebrate and commemorate that particular occasion or model, and that influences merchandise, a whole lot of other things that go along with it. And of course, in this era that we're living with social media, it's a talking point. You can merchandise it, people like to show an interest and follow, and then from there typically originates a couple of select showings or getting experiences with a car, and how can you not enjoy that?
Yeah, it's pretty impossible to see that car and not get a smile on your face seeing an off-road 911. There's just something special about that. And, in the U.S., we often think like, oh, where's the market for that? There's probably a massive overseas market for that thing too.
This continent and the U.S. in particular, it certainly is. We always talk about the land of opportunity, but consumers amongst consumers, there is something for everybody and some. If you've got a small idea and you want to test it and you can get 5 or 6 people to raise their hands, there's certain to be a few more. So why not experiment? I think also in this era, it goes from leadership to product development where you can push the boundaries, see if it resonates with consumers, and you find a niche within a niche, and that helps you to develop a more compelling proposition.
Yeah.
And you can, of course, command a premium because that's the kind of consumer, that discerning taste that's looking for it in a modern luxury sense of the word.
Mm-hmm. Where do you focus most of your marketing power on? Because I'm in a drag racing segment of things and I don't always see this side of things because these tires, they don't fit on my 15-inch wheels, unfortunately, for when I'm drag racing. But
yeah, I mean, we have to align that with our business priorities, and generally you'd find the good old 80-20 rules that apply, where your biggest revenue contributors are. You need to obviously invest in that. We also have a whole selection of key halo products, which you just need to put in the eye of the consumer, and just they wait for the next edition or iteration. And once you put it out there, they pick up and they run with it. So it's easier just because of their strength and allure and their reputation that particular variant is also built up. But for us, it's also a question of, Pirelli is not just about motorsport and the purest product there at the top end of the market. We offer a whole range of other product offerings as well. And it would be remiss of me not to talk about our Scorpion range, Scorpion All Season Plus 3 in the replacement section, but specifically developed for SUVs, to go on an off-road combination. There's certain offerings if you want to go more extreme, but with the significant portion of the market, almost 4/5 or 80% of the markets led by trucks and SUVs, you need to have a strong voice, a compelling offer, and something that resonates with the consumer. So not only is our product being developed specifically for those various platforms, but it's got high mileage warranty, it's durable, and it performs in the wet and the dry, and almost the ideal all-season tire that ticks most of the boxes, because physics on a track and all off-road, all-terrain, it's opposing requirements. So, and a good all-season tire, the Scorpion, is probably as good as it gets to fit the bill and all those criteria.
So when we're looking at these tires and the new stuff's coming out, like, is the more development coming in actually stopping the cars or actually accelerating the cars? Because it's, once you actually get to a racetrack, you start thinking more about stopping because these cars are so fast, it's kind of a given. You're like, oh, I actually have to stop this thing real quick if I have to.
The short answer to that would be if you ask me that question, if it's raining outside, we're on a track, I'm going to have one answer for you. If you ask me whether it's the sunshine, 80 degrees, 85 degrees, still on a track, I'll have a different answer. And if we're on an all-terrain or just general, city roads or on a freeway, interstate of some sort, I will have a different answer, because this is a question of having the right product for the right environment. Mm-hmm. And it's about the mixture of the compound In a track setting, you want a more softer compound. It gives you better grip. Obviously, at certain optimized temperatures, you need to warm them up, and then when they're in the zone, that's when you get your best handling, best cornering ability, and the tires give you a true sense of how the balance is working of the car. Because if you have too much tire squeak, you know that you're not taking the turn or the curb or the apex in the right or ideal line. So when you have that in perfect harmony, the driver develops the confidence and he can go faster and faster, and then start improving on their respective lap times, or in a race be in a position to go for that overtake and advance their way through the field to try and get to the top of the pack. And ultimately, I guess it's about standing on top of the podium.
Yeah, that is the most important. Win lights are really all that matters. Podium finishes are really the only important thing. Yeah. When it comes to that stuff.
It is, but turning the dial to what we talked about on the Scorpion side, it's often 2, 3, 4 people in your luxury or sports SUV of some sorts. In the rainy conditions, you want to make sure that the water is dispersed as safely as you can if you go into heavy rain conditions. If it's gravel and off-road, you want to have that confidence that you can accelerate without the rear of the car getting loose. So it's that combination. And then, of course, because of a different tread pattern, that will give you better braking ability on loose gravel or maybe a light degree of sand. And there's so many different permutations to work with.
And traction control on these cars has become so good as well, too, that I'm sure helps your job be a little bit easier. Nice, intelligent four-wheel traction control.
Exactly, and I think tires certainly are a measure of proactive or active safety dimensions. In the era, the heyday of the motor manufacturers, all about in a crash and the crumple zones and impact zones, and then come airbags. But advanced technology over the last 20 years about avoiding accidents, trying to communicate car to car or network to car to driver, alerting them of potential risks and emergency situations or high-risk situations that might come up. So you can use that advanced communications to mitigate driver action.
Yeah.
So, and that's only in its infancy. Still a lot of development, but with the technology in cars, I feel those breakthroughs will be revolutionary. And then you always also know, in the case of, let's say, the McLaren Arturo, where you can communicate with the tires, actually pre-warn and set them up for what's coming their way. So it's completing the full circle. Again, it's in its testing stage and rolling out in the limited edition, but if you try and scale that up and see the future possibilities, exciting times for consumers to make informed decision, having access to the latest and greatest available technology.
Yeah, because I feel like the past 5 years, I kind of kept saying to myself, like, how can tires get that much better? How can suspension get that much better? And, like, it feels like that with tires. Like, how can they get that much better than where we're at? It's crazy. Maybe just more same grip but lasts longer. Like, I don't even know what you start to go for anymore. They seem so good now.
From a research and development perspective, and the engineers that work along with that, it all depends what the starting formula is. What is the car that you're working with? What is the weight that you're dealing with? Has there been an improvement in weight? And then that gives you an idea. In some instances, you want to go with a wider tire or a lower profile. It depends on the role of that model in a particular lineup of the manufacturer, whether it be BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, for that matter, etc. So, but they want to have the confidence that they've got the right fit. If you put your foot in the shoe, and if you run a lot or walk a lot, you can't go for a shoe that's too small or that's too large, that's too wide or too slim. You need that perfect fit, because then you can take on that race or that adventure or that hike with confidence. And the same thing applies. For more rugged terrain, you're going to need a different tread pattern or compound, as opposed to being on the track where it's very smooth, and there you can go as lightweight as possible because you don't need to carry around any excess. And
you guys have the tires on the sorry to cut you off, but you guys have the tires on the Senna, do you not? The McLaren Senna? Because that seems like a very special car as far as weight goes, because it's such a light car compared to everything else, which probably makes it a dream for tires.
Dream for tires, I guess. It's such an ultimate precision track machine that when you go and enjoy and you have fun, the tires will last for a limited period, of course, because you're going to try and carve down those lap times every time you go around, because the car is just so close to the ultimate race car that you can get. But again, credit to them for the fantastic package and following in the market that just with a name like Senna, people just wanted to be a part of it.
That's
Goes
true.
back to one of our opening statements, I guess, in terms of developing that niche for you within that segment.
Yeah, because they came out with those and they were all sold before they even showed a picture of them. those type of cars, they like Ferrari comes out with something and they're already accounted for before anybody even knows what it is.
Secret formula, but plays into taking care of your good customers, and they'll always be the first ones to raise their hands. And if the relationship is there and they follow the brand and they're engaged, what more could you want? It's we talk about customers for life. And the revenue multiplier, they carry you forward and you can bank on it. And in the yesteryears, people didn't reach out to consumers to often just test what their thoughts or opinions are. It's now become more of an accepted norm where you might go to an insider group and test their perspective or opinion, particularly when it comes to onboard diagnostics and some of the tech that's involved with that, because in an era of Apple and Google, these things change on a day-by-day basis. So what's here today will be new tomorrow. It's like your latest update. And cars also have started moving in that direction, and the pace of acceleration and adoption thereof. It's fantastic because consumers don't buy a product which becomes mundane. It stays in tune and in keeping with times.
Have you guys done any testing on take some new tire development stuff, bring it onto an older car from the 90s and seeing how much better it gets with just a tire swap? Because like we were saying, is it chassis that have become so good, the cars, or is it tires that have become so good with a race car?
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see you take a 90s Porsche or Ferrari and you put new tires from current on it, see how it matches up to its previous Nürburgring times.
I guess there are two schools of thought there, because when you talk about a collector's vehicle or classic vehicle, it's about the purist, and when you talk about restoration, it's about protecting the origin and what came on that car.
Yeah.
Obviously, the easy solution is a more modern day tire because there's more modern compounds. It's been either tested or subjected to modern day challenges, climate, environment, the road configuration, asphalt, etc. So, we generally have, for those particular classic vehicles, we've got our Competizione range, which you then continue to develop. It's some of the agreements that we have with the manufacturers, and you can restore that car to its pristine, almost close to original condition.
Yeah.
And in terms of the value and the resale and what it means to the consumer, probably more often than that, that's the way to go. So yes, we do have that, and then with our current model range, we continue to iterate and develop. Some products have got a longer life cycle. It just depends on how the segment moves. If it's a slow moving segment but high volume, you generally find that the rate of adoption is lower. But there are other segments that generally between, I would say, 5 to 7 years, similar to a vehicle life cycle. Once you launch the new product and it goes to market, you already start the research, getting some customer data and feedback, and take that into your development, which is the kickoff of the next stage of that particular product. And in our particular case, we are just recently launched the P0 All Season Plus 3, Scorpion All Season Plus 3, but our minds are already what will the next iteration thereof look like, because you've got to anticipate the needs. You've got to look at some trends that are taking place in the market. Also some legislative challenges as well, which poses challenges for us, and we need to find best ways to embrace that, incorporate, and make sure that we have a product that we believe in, fits the needs of the consumer, but also is available, as you would expect from Pirelli in the market as a premium prestige offering.
Yeah, because some places are requiring X amount of tread wear on a tire, X amount of all season, whatever they need, and even a harder tire to try to cut down on the amount of tire debris that inevitably comes off of racing tires and performance tires, and I'm not happens to me all the time. My tire's just up in smoke. I'm just, sitting there, and all of a sudden a burnout happens and they're gone.
I've lived and worked in 4 continents around the world, and from my point of view, it's insane that you have vehicles, your tires here with 60, 70, 80,000 more mileage warranty. And yes, it's okay, but again, at the end of the day, if you've got a tire with 80,000 mile warranty, fine. But how tactile is that compound going to be for, the rolling resistance on the road? The rolling resistance will be very high.
Yeah.
The dynamics of it, if you are subjected to lateral forces, because it needs to be very hard. So there will be a compromise.
And then noise probably as well.
Definitely noise, because you'd have a much deeper tread pattern. So without a doubt, yes, it will have compromises, but if that's what you want at all cost, where another consumer might say, yeah, 40,000 is fine for me, but I enjoy those miles. I get more optimized ride and handling and driving pleasure. And one thing we didn't touch base on earlier is also safety. Braking under other wet conditions or dry conditions or slippery conditions with loose gravel, etc. Giving the customer or the owner that confidence that they are on the right tires that can actively mitigate what is thrown your way.
Yeah.
That is very important, because if you don't feel comfortable in the car, and you see it on the racetracks, you see it Formula One, if the new driver, look at Ricardo recently coming in, you have to settle back into the car. You don't immediately find your rhythm. These things are all different. So by the same token, you know what to expect from your set of tires. If you've got a history with a particular brand or a product line, such as P0, you're going to know that those are going to perform under the most testing and demanding conditions.
Yeah, and they change over time too. So 10-year-old tires completely different than current stuff. But aside from that, do you guys give Max Verstappen better tires, or how does that work? Does he get better tires from you guys, or is he just
Absolutely. I mean, how else? It all comes down to the tires.
It has to be. So, you're just giving him better tires.
Christian Horner and I have conversations every week, basically, ahead of the Grand Prix to just maybe make sure that Max stays ahead of the pack. But no, it's we're pretty proud of our partnership with Formula One. It's already spanned more than a decade, and now through 2027. It's the highest level of technological advancement. It's a test bed for future technologies. You've got more manufacturers involved now than ever. And the sport is in a healthy state. It is growing. We're pretty excited. In the stateside, you used to go to CODA 10 years ago, and it was hard to find a group of people to attend the race on a Saturday. 2 weeks ago when I was there, and I think they quoted north of 400,000 people over the weekend. Wow. Phenomenal for the sport, phenomenal for us in the US, because now we don't have one, we don't have two. We're having our third Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, and I think we'll probably talk about Las Vegas. So, and what's encouraging to me, it's a younger audience, it's a more diverse audience. We have a lot more women engaged in the sport, in following, and just having fun coming into the weekend. And hanging out with their friends. There's lots of other activities that go around, whether it be engagement or festivities, and it makes for a superb getaway as part of a more modern lifestyle, but celebrating it in the shape of Formula One.
Yeah, it is really an awesome sport, and it's all like quick one-day stuff. It all action, like the whole thing. You're not standing around like 8 hours at some events. Like the racing is like a very quick thing. It all happens, and it's just, I love Formula One. I've been watching it a lot since Drive to Survive came out. Helped that whole sport a lot as well.
And Drive to Survive, in my humble opinion, I think it's been good. It's been great for the sport, but it's also been the one season, the epic season, with a showdown between Lewis and Max. And if you ask people today, I think opinions are still divided about who should have won and could have won. But where in your world did you see a showdown going to almost the last second in the fourth quarter? And who are you going to bet on? Tom Brady, I guess, if you were a football fan. But that's what it came down to. And that just perfectly aligned with, I think, Drive to Survive taking off. And people could see how exciting it is. And I feel that now adopting also the sprint race, I'm a strong proponent of it. I do like the qualifying on the Friday and the Saturday. Recently you had the sprint race shootout, and then the race later on the afternoon in CODA, and then the Sunday the race. So it made for filling the Saturday as well, which sometimes becomes a bit of a quiet day if you don't have enough support races. So personally, I'm a strong proponent of that format. I know there's some driver opinions that might vary, but from a spectator point of view, it gives them greater value and action throughout the course of the weekend.
You got to completely focus on spectator on that kind of thing, because events that don't worry that much about the spectator, races that don't think much about the spectator, end up fading away. And it's cool to see Formula One care so much about that. I remember when they came out in Miami a couple of years ago, and that was pretty groundbreaking, because it was like through a city in the US, like Miami, it was like, and now seeing it going to Vegas is just like that same cool factor of right down the strip of Vegas. Miami did some funny things with the fake water and the boats. It was entertaining. It was cool. I enjoyed that.
I think some of our European colleagues were remarking, and they said only in the US, probably, but...
We'd put like a McDonald's French fry stand in there too.
Why not? And some waitresses and waiters, hostesses just serving burgers and milkshakes on trays and roller skates, right?
Well, Monaco's almost become too small of a track for the Formula One cars anyways. As cool as it is.
Yes, the cars have evolved, but the
they're so big.
not. But getting to Miami, you need to just take it about, there was a vision to take Formula One beyond Austin. Miami, the cool Latina influence, so obviously from the media partners, Liberty Media, they felt there was a significant opportunity, so credit for that. And it's not easy. Where do you find property in such a highly and densely populated area?
Yeah.
So credit to the team for being creative, saying, hey, let's do it around the football stadium. And first time around, most of the structures were temporary. This year, the pit box was already constructed. I think it was a lot better and a much more of an enhanced consumer experience. And now, if you to say where else in the world could Formula One go? It's been in Korea, it's been in Russia in the past. I think there's only one way, and you could have summed it up that all roads lead to Las Vegas. I think just the pure thought of that gives me goosebumps. And I love the fact that they're going to do it at night. Qualifying will be, technically speaking, midnight on the Friday evening, so qualifying, and then in the same day you'll have the full race, which will be 10 p.m. at night. So under Las Vegas, the bright lights, big city, the allure, the appeal, people will have a phenomenal time. The sound of those engines going, those cars racing down the strip and beyond. You've got the Sphere there, which is a major new global attraction. I've just seen, haven't been, but seen some of the visuals of the U2 concert. People have been blown away about your senses being stimulated. Yes, it's the band, it's the music which you love, but the visual stimulation that comes along with it, just taking it, making an epic, completely different dimension. And I feel this race will certainly be that and beyond for all spectators. It's a street circuit, so obviously some challenges. I'm not sure about the overtaking. We're going to see a bit more about it. But the grandstand in front of the Bellagio, it's quite narrow, so they're going to be so close to the circuit, which you don't always find on the other tracks. And I think in itself, the visceral sensation you'll get from it will be a dimension beyond.
Yeah, it's not the biggest roadway to overtake. Of course, it's much bigger than Monaco, but it still is going to be a tight track. There'll probably be a couple of, bumper-to-bumper hits there, I'm sure, which always fun to watch a little bit of when they're not going too fast.
Be listening out for Elvis as well. He'll always be present, right?
Yeah. And so when you were talking about that, I started to think about the old engines, because that's always the thing, is like the V10s, because you were talking about them making that noise down. Man, I miss the V10s a little bit. You always got to miss the big engines. There's something so special. And
that's, many of the Grand Prix, they have some of the cars from yesteryear, classic cars, or some of the race cars, and they have some of the past world champs or prominent drivers drive those cars around the track, and everybody still has an appreciation, because that's still raw. It's the difference between analog and digital as you see it today. You don't have a million buttons on your steering wheel. Yeah, and some of those racy drivers still had to change gears with their hands. It's not pedals and synchronized boxes as you have today. So a lot harder to drive, also with the braking, but you just have a true appreciation for what those greats, racing greats and Formula One greats had to go through in those days. I was at a presentation of McLaren fairly recently, and Ron Dennis was at the not very recently, but it was a video of Ron Dennis talking about Formula One, and he had the people almost standing right next to the circuit like you'd see in a rally today. Now the safety systems that are put in place, even where we are today, and you see the proactive measures that are taken. So it's great to see that the sport has come on in leaps and bounds, but to celebrate your success in the future, you also need to look back to your heritage, and I think it's an important element of why people love F1 the way they do, and hopefully will strengthen its position. And again, we've been a partner of them. We bring our technology with the different compounds, and we've proven that this year in some. I think it's been one of the seasons where we've had some of the most significant weather challenges thrown at us, whether it be light rain, slippery conditions, heavy rains that we've seen in certain Grand Prix. And we've been pretty proud how our product has performed, and very little comments or concerns raised from the drivers. So I think they know that we are trying to work along together with them, and credit to our motorsport team there, Mario Isolo and co. They travel with these respective team members and drivers. They ask feedback, prompt, and along with the FIA, they just try and put forward the best, most technologically advanced insider perspective and products that we can. And proud to be a Pirelli partner in that regard.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. Love the F1 stuff. I hope to make it out to one of the Vegas events in the future at some point, because I imagine after this first one, they're going to do plenty more, especially after the amount of gambling that's going to go through Vegas. They're going to be like, please come on back anytime.
We'll
do
see.
A year? We'll do that.
I'm sure it's going to be a very late Saturday night come early Sunday morning for most of the attendees.
I know people are already talking about how like the U.S. has 3 races now and other countries don't really have any, but it's a big country.
Because we have a big manufacturing footprint in Silao in Mexico. Later on this week we'll be announcing some exciting news in that regard as well. So continued investment in the continent, and then Canada for us as a market, vast landscape, it's huge, but we've got a wonderful team and organization that's helping us with our growth ambitions. So servicing all of North America, but that brings for us 5 Grand Prix in the season, or in the continent this year and beyond. So it's fun because it happens at regular intervals. You've got May, you've got June, and then October and November are pretty packed.
Yeah, that does make it cool. Yeah, because I forgot that they do it south, they do it north, Canada, Mexico, all over. It's such a cool worldwide sport.
And they're each so different as well. The last weekend in Mexico, obviously Sergio Perez is such a national hero, and that's fantastic for the following, but particularly where the paddock club's located in that stadium, that's unlike you find at any other Grand Prix. Then you go to Montreal with a European French influence, and it's a phenomenal weekend. We have lots of fun with our guests, and they appreciate the true art of racing. The track is also wonderful to go around. Sometimes we take our guests on one of the trucks that kind of usher people and give them a flavor, and when you pull away, people are cheering you. When you get to the other side of the track, you find that they're booing you because they want to be on the track there. And it's just fun in the spirit of having that opportunity to celebrate it also with our customers who ultimately buy and test and drive our products.
Mm-hmm. Man, very cool. Well, guys, this coming event in Vegas, bet on Max Verstappen because they're going to give him some better tires. So, but thank you guys so much for coming on, man. That was really fun.
It's been our pleasure. And again, look forward to Las Vegas, also Abu Dhabi closing out the season, and also the Pirelli brand going from strength to strength. We're looking forward to closing a great year, and want to have a fast start into the new year because we've got the traction to make it happen.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys coming on. We'll see you guys next time.
My pleasure.